Hello and welcome back to the Naked Expat channel. Today I'd like to address a very detailed comment that was left on one of my other videos by an American gentleman called Thomas. So Thomas, this one's for you. And I'd like to ask for the help of the Naked Expat community, you guys that have very kindly subscribed and comment on my previous videos, to help him out, because it's not just about my opinion. You know, we're, as expats or potential expats, we're all in this together. So if you've got any ideas that may well satisfy Thomas's requirements, then fantastic. Now, Thomas's message on one of my previous videos reads as follows. Excuse the glasses, I'm getting old. Now, apart from the praise redacted, can you address where you live and why you decided to remain there? So yeah, I'll do that in a moment. Medical emergencies happen irrespective of age. Therefore, I do not wish to be light years away from quality healthcare. So that's number one. And I also want to prioritise access to good food and fitness. Right, okay. He wants healthcare, good food and fitness. Finances are not a huge concern for me. So money's okay. Didn't say he was wealthy. We just said that finances were not of a huge concern. But I'd be more happy to rent and never buy. Most likely, I'll do 6 months here in the USA and 6 months of warmth in the Philippines. Okay, 6 months on, 6 months off. That makes lots of sense, and a lot of Americans do that. Please share some insights on daily life as a retiree, how best to access your money whilst living abroad. What about local travel and transportation? Sure, I could afford to buy a vehicle, but I never really would want to buy one there. I'm 62 and looking for a peaceful, comfortable and healthy lifestyle, nothing more. So he's not mentioned dating, he's not mentioned finding a partner or anything else. 62 years old, looking for a peaceful, comfortable retirement and fitness. I present these 3 basic questions. I've never been there before. Stay well and thank you very much. Right. Now, I thought initially this is going to be easy. Now, I'm based on the northwest of Angeles City, very close to Clark. I'm a solo parent. My son's nearly a teenager. And we love it here. We've got horse riding, roller skates, 10-pin bowling, jogging tracks. We got the Clark Zoo. We got a big aqua park. We got Olympic-sized swimming pools. Oh God, we got everything. We got a racetrack. We got a new FIA-approved racetrack just north of Tarlac being built. But we got racetracks. We got 2 professional go-karting tracks. We got hot rods. We got flying school. We got golf. We got absolutely everything. So Thomas, that's the reason I'm here. It's got all the infrastructure. I ride big motorcycles every now and again. They can all be serviced and it's a great base. I'm not far from Manila. I can bomb down the expressway in an hour. I can be at the Nino Aquino International Airport, which is the main Manila airport. And only a little bit further on, I can easily get to medical facilities like St. Luke's. I've got quite a rare blood group, A negative, and I often pop down there to give blood and donate to foreigners because, you know, if you have an accident and you're A negative, you've got to be really careful because, you know, you're on thin ice. But anyway, those are the reasons I'm here. But I'm a solo parent and I've lived in other places and always ended up coming back towards Pampanga. And there's lots of reasons for that, some of which I'll cover. But although initially I thought, actually, hang on a minute, fantastic, fitness, yeah, Clark and Angeles ticks that. Good food, well, surprise, surprise, Pampanga is known as the food basket of the Philippines. Don't take my word for it. That's what the Filipinos coined the phrase. They know because most of the fresh fruit and vegetables comes from Baguio, the mountain province just north in Pampanga, and it goes to Manila and en route ends up in like Pampang Market, the main market in Angeles City. I trained when I left school as a chef, as I've mentioned in another previous video. I then went on into finance and I jokingly say I went from like cooking food to cooking the books. I'd like to think I know a little bit about food and fruit and vegetables, and I've never seen such fresh and vast array of selection of fruit and vegetables as I have in Pampanga. So yeah, ticks all of those boxes as well. But my concern for Thomas, and this is where you guys in the sort of in our little community can help out here. I'm really open to suggestions because what concerns me is Thomas is 62, fine. Access to healthcare and medical care, yeah. Lots of provincial hospitals in and around Angeles City and very close to Clark Medical City, which is kind of like a 5-star hospital in Clark. And we're not too far expressway down to, say, the main hospital in the Philippines, St. Luke's in BGC. which for those that don't know is a Bonifacio Global City. That's the initial stands for, everyone refers to it as BGC. And the two popular areas in Philippines for like higher net worth, wealthy individuals that want to be based in the capital is BGC and Makati. Those are the two names that will probably become very, very familiar to you. However, peace and comfort in Angeles City, Clark? Well, if you want to be around Filipinos and you want to rent a condominium, bearing in mind, Thomas wants to be here for 6 months of the year. Now, what concerns me is this is where you guys might be able to help me out here. A lot of property owners, be them foreigners or Filipinos, they want a minimum of a 12-month rental contract. Now, if money's no problem, Thomas might rent somewhere for a year and sign a year's contract, but only live there for 6 months. But that is kind of like money down the drain. Doesn't really make sense. And also you're liable for that property even when you're not there. And it's not wise to leave any property unoccupied and unguarded anywhere, especially in Asia, for 6 months, for an extended period of time. That's not prudent. So really, you can block book and rent on a monthly basis, like an Airbnb, a foreigner-owned condo. Some of the foreigner-owned condos in Angeles City are lovely, like in the Candy Towers. Fantastic security. The expat owners have decked them out really well. And although they'll charge top dollar rent, you're safe and secure and you've got daily cleaning and everything else. My concern is, though, for someone that's not been to the Philippines before, and you end up based in a lovely condo, but smack bang in like Fun Town in Angeles City, where most of these condos are built, I wouldn't really want to end up being there. I know that longer term, once you become, once you become familiar with all of the facilities that are available in and around Clark, and take your blinkers off, it's second to none in the Philippines. It's got the best facilities ever, and they're only getting better. New Clark City, for example, you've got between Clark and New Clark City, 32 kilometres of cycleway and jogging track on one side of the road, separate to the road, 32 kilometres up one way and 32 kilometres down the other way. That's why all the Ironman and Spartan, decathlons and triathlon competitions are there. The Asian Games were held in New Clark City. You've got Olympic-sized diving boards, Olympic-sized swimming pools. You've got everything. You've got cycle tracks. You've got all the playgrounds in Bicentennial Park, Aqua Planet, Soccer Sunday in the parade grounds, yoga, Tai Chi in the playgrounds. You've got it all going on. You've got Koreatown. You've got, anyway, wonderful, but no peace and quiet, no comfort. So, although Clark International Airport is fantastic and you can go pretty much anywhere in the world and you can fly to a lot of places in the Philippines, I'm kind of thinking, guys, and again, I'd really like your help on this. I'm kind of thinking with the Philippines, you've got Luzon, you've got Visayas, and you've got Mindanao. And pretty much Luzon, the two main areas, you've got Angeles City and Clark, and you've got Manila. Yeah, I know you've got Laguna in the south and everything else, but what springs to mind as an expat is Pampanga and mainland, got Manila. Visayas, you kind of think Cebu. Now, I know you've got Dumaguete and Bacolod as well, and Mindanao, you kind of think Davao. But I'm thinking, if you're based in, if Thomas, first-time visitor to the Philippines, I'm dissuaded to focus on Angeles City and Clark for like the reasons I thought about being in a bit like Toy Town. There's Angeles City and Clark can be for kids. And there's two types of kids. There's kids that are adults and should know better. And there's kids that are kids, like my son. They've got everything. But it can be kind of a little bit crazy. It's not peaceful. It's not tranquil. You've got all the fitness facilities. So I'm thinking, if Thomas goes to Cebu, then of course, in Cebu, you've got Cebu City, which I've not visited for a few years now. Certainly there's a hospital there. I know that the traffic before was really crazy between Cebu City and Mactan Island and Lapu-Lapu, where the airport is there. And the bridges between Cebu and Mactan the traffic was crazy. Once I was stuck on a big bike, a Honda Valkyrie, which is a bit like a Goldwing. And I was stuck for 3 hours trying to get across the bridge from Lapu-Lapu into Cebu City. And it was a nightmare. It was driving me crazy. But I think there's another bridge that's being built now and it's a little bit better. Traffic is still bad everywhere, but it's avoidable, depending on the times of day. What I'm thinking is if Thomas was based in Cebu City, near like the Ayala Mall in Cebu City, and he's got access to all the bars and restaurants and coffee shops and everything else, and clothes, retail outlets, etc. If he was based, maybe not smack bang there, but quite close to Ayala Mall and equidistant from, say, getting to the airport, one of the advantages of Cebu is that Cebu Pacific, which is the main domestic carrier, is based there. And I'm thinking that from Cebu, he can then visit places like Angeles City, Clark. He can then go down to places like Davao. He can fly across to Palawan over here, the islands there. And also he can go to places like Bohol and Iloilo, islands there, and visit those places. And from Cebu, of course, you can go overland. You can travel across the mountains over towards places like Mobile, which has got fantastic beaches. Northern Cebu has got nice beaches. I don't think there's any real nice beaches on the mainland in Cebu. I don't really get what all the fuss is about. But you can travel there. Certainly you can drive or get a bus down past Car, which is like in the middle here between Cebu and Santander. And you can drive down through Car down to Santander, and you can get the ferry across to Negros Island there. You've got Bacolod in the north, you've got Dumaguete down here, and you can get the ferry across from Santander to Bacolod, to Dumaguete. You've got two choices in Santander. You can go direct on the ferry into Dumaguete, or you can come slightly along the coast in Santander and take a shorter ferry and come in near Amlan, which is just north of Dumaguete, and then drop back down. But you can travel overland, which is great. And then you can visit Negros as well. So, and of course you can fly from Cebu to Bacolod in the north of Negros if you want to. So I'm kind of thinking, when it's all about location, as a first-time visitor to the Philippines, my advice would be, well, base yourself mainland Cebu, be close to Mactan Airport, Lapu-Lapu, etc., to be able to fly elsewhere and go and visit these other places. Because I know a lot of expats that maybe have gone to Dumaguete, lived in Dumaguete and got bored. And after a while, they've moved north to Bacolod, which is a larger city. Or if you're not really into the cities, they've enjoyed Bohol, either to stay for a short period of time or longer period of time. Iloilo is becoming more and more popular. It's got good local food, and it's a very popular, like more of a town than a city. Dumaguete's been popular because it's more of a town, even though it's called a city. And some of these places have got lovely sea breezes that certainly Clark and Angeles City haven't got. But again, it goes hand in hand. Why hasn't Clark and Angeles City got a sea breeze? Well, believe it or not, if there's a typhoon, the airplanes can still take off from Clark because the Americans weren't idiots. They put Clark Air Base, because it was an air base, previous to becoming a Freeport zone. The Americans weren't stupid. They put Clark in probably the most geographically sweet spot that any airport could possibly have been built in, because in typhoons even the large bombers can still land there, and Clark has got one of the largest air runways in the world, and they're building a second one. So it's protected by a natural mountain landmass. That also helps Angeles City, because believe you me, all the rubbishy weather and typhoons come this way or that way. In the Pacific, they come from east to west. And any local Filipino will tell you, along Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, all of the bad weather comes slamming in to the east of all of these islands in the Philippines. And then the power of the storm gradually dissipates as it hits landfall and comes across all the landmass of these islands. And of course in Luzon, Angeles City, Subic, etc. is over on the western side. And a lot of the force of the typhoons have actually weakened as they've come across here, as they come across all of the land masses. So in general terms, and it's very basic terms, but in general terms, you're always better living in the Philippines. You're always better living on the western side of an island than the eastern side of an island. That's why if you look at places in Luzon like Balair, sort of over here, it's good for surfing. Why? Because of the tides, because of the waves and everything else. Hello, not on the other side of the island, you know? So that's an important consideration. I've put up here toy, not because he's looking for a toy boy, but I think it's important as a first-time visitor, Thomas, time of year. Now you said that you wanted to come to the Philippines for 6 months of the year and stay in America for 6 months of the year. Fine, fantastic. That's quite logical. What I definitely advise is you miss out the rainy season and the period of time. Typhoons can hit at any time, but the typhoons are more frequent certain times of the year than others. The sweet spot, again, it's only my opinion, but I think the sweet spot for the Philippines is the 6 months between November and April. And that's kind of like the dry season, and into the summer season it can get hot. Certainly around about sort of like March, April time can get really hot. But you're in the sort of dry season. I think the sweet spot is November to April. Before November, or October can still be very heavy with rain in a lot of instances. But November to April in the Philippines, and the remainder of the time back in America, wherever you live in America. That kind of makes a lot of sense to me. Again, I'd be interested to hear the opinions and views of others in the comments below. Now, with regards to links, well, linkages we've already told about how to get around land masses and domestic airports, etc. Absolutely fine. Now, with regards to money, you're here for 6 months and you're in America for 6 months. I'm not as familiar with the movement of assets and cash transactions for Americans in the Philippines as I am for certainly the British and Europeans. However, there are, and I've used them all. There was previously TransferWise, now renamed simply Wise, a bit like the Facebook is now Facebook, and WR, World Remit, that's also available, and also Revolt. Now, I use all three of these. Now, Revolt, this one, and Wise, they both have cards that I use. Not sure whether World Remit does, I don't think they do, but they both have cards. And simply, if you have a Revolt card or a Wise card, you can top that up in certain currencies. So, for example, you open up your account and you can hold US dollars, Philippine peso, euros, sterling, etc., most common currencies. And you can top up your Revolt card, say, with US dollars. And you can spend it as peso in the Philippines. You use that card as a debit card. And you spend it wherever you want in all the shops and stores and everything else. And World Remit will convert it at that time, very, very competitive, almost the Google rate, with an extremely slim margin for their profit every time you do a transaction. If you don't want to do that and you want to lock in your rate, you can do that as well. Because within the Revolt system, you can say, okay, I'm going to put in 2,000 or 3,000 US dollars, and I'm quite happy with that exchange rate. Say it's 57 US dollars to the peso, and you think, yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm going to have some of that. You can transfer all of that 2,000 or 3,000 US dollars at 57 and hold it in peso. And then when you come to the Philippines and you spend it, you spend in the peso rather than the fluctuating exchange rate as you go along. So it's up to you. You can do both. You can set it in stone so you know what the exchange rate is, or if you think that maybe the exchange rate is going to improve during your stay, you can just spend your card in US dollars and Revolt will basically convert it at the time of your exchange. That's very, very good. It's a great system, certainly if you're 6 months in the US, 6 months out. The other thing you can do is once you've been a tourist for certainly 6 months, you need to get what's known as an ACR card, an alien card. When you first come here as a tourist, you don't get one. But after a while, you can get an ACR card. And you've been here 6 months, you get an ACR card. Once you get an ACR card, you can then open up a bank account and you can get verified on GCash. Why would you want to do that? Well, it's very easy with GCash to then order grab taxis and what have you and just pay via your GCash account. You can use GCash to send money to friends and family in the Philippines very easy and at nil cost. So that's very, very good. Don't worry about their investment products because they're pretty crummy. But again, you can also open up a bank account with some banks, not with all banks. Some banks will not allow you on a tourist visa to open up a bank account. Now, for all you keyboard warriors out there with itchy fingers dying to jump down my throat, I said some banks. Some banks will allow you on a tourist visa if you're longer stay with an ACR card, to open up a basic savings account. Not a current account, a basic savings account. Most won't, but they will once you're on, like, say, a SRV retirement visa or 13A spouses visa. But that's a whole different thing. Thomas, first time visit in the Philippines. Here for 6 months. Chances are at some point he's going to have to renew his visa and get an ACR card. Only a couple of £1,000, Thomas, and loads of people will help you out sorting that out. Not a problem whatsoever. Don't be intimidated by the process. There's a lot of, rubber stamping and stuff to do, but once you've got it, fantastic. One other thing why I think Thomas would like Cebu is Cebu is renowned for having fantastic, like, festivals. A bit like the Filipino equivalent of the Mardi Gras in Rio. The Cebu festival's fantastic, as are festivals in places like Marinduque, for example. But the main festival in Cebu is fantastic. It's a real spectacle. It's an explosion of colour. And there's no getting away. Some of the food in Cebu is very, very nice. They do great barbecue. They do great lechon. Cebu's famous for having really juicy, sweet mangoes, for example. One of the other things about the Philippines, and again, keyboard warriors, well, take a deep breath before you jump down my throat. Everything is relative and beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Generally speaking, and I know this is a huge generalization, women from Pampanga and in the north, Kampampangans, are generally quite tall and slim with relatively hard features. In the south, in places like Davao, Mindanao, Samar, for example, they seem to be very tight, very tight. They seem to be very tiny. They might also be very tight. I'm going to leave that one in because that's funny. But in Mindanao, the women seem to be very tiny and very petite and like 35 kilos, little tiny tots, which some guys really like. A general assumption, I know, but it's very common. It's also well known that in Cebu, you have the beauty of like Cebuano women. They have high cheekbones and big eyes. And a lot of the Miss Filipinos, in the beauty pageants, they're all from like the Visayas region because they have stunning features. So Thomas, your main objective will be healthcare, good food and fitness. I think if you're based in Cebu, you'll see some real crackers, some real beauties. Some of them might also be tight, but Anyway, that's my thought process with regards to a good place to start off exploring the Philippines. For all of the facilities, modern facilities and fitness, everything that's available in Clark and Angeles City, and it's not as crazy as Manila, I would suggest that Thomas bases himself in Cebu and explores from Cebu for all of those reasons. I'd be really interested to hear your comments as to whether or not you agree with me. If you're an expat already and you've got a real good feel for the Philippines, whether you think that that is prudent advice, or if you think there's something else might be better for him, bearing in mind he's healthy, money's not an object, and he's 62 years of age, let me know in the comments, because let's make this a really proactive, helpful community for the sake of everybody. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. This is just my gut instinct after like nearly 13 years in the Philippines. But I'd be really interested to hear other people's opinions that might be even more prudent and better than mine. So thank you for listening. I've got one other thing I'd like to talk to you about, which I keep on forgetting to mention in previous videos. Now, I've always found like drug smuggling and banged up abroad documentaries really interesting, in border security with immigrants and smuggling stuff, because I'm an expat, so I'm living in another country. So that's always fascinated me. I really enjoyed reading Sharpelle Corby's story, like No More Tomorrows, where she was caught, she's an Australian girl who was caught years ago smuggling, I think it was marijuana in her boogie board, coming from Australia to Bali. And then she ended up in, what's the name of the prison in Bali? It begins with a K, it's Kukloman or something, prison in Bali. She ended up there, and the documentary about her was No More Tomorrows. I think her daughter was called Destiny or something like that, and tried to help her out. And it was all, did she do it? Was she innocent? Was she guilty? Whatever. And it was fantastic. And the No More Tomorrows storybook, the book is very, very good. This book is amazing. Anybody that's an expat or potential expat interested in, like this guy, David McMillan, this is a true story. He was like one of the most infamous drug smugglers in the world. And believe it or not, banged up in the Bangkok Hilton, the big tiger, the main prison in Thailand, he escaped. And this, I'm not going to tell you the story about it, it's in here. He escaped. He was also one of the most wanted drug smugglers in the world. The guy is an absolute con artist and genius. There's a YouTube video where he talks, and he talks very eloquently. He seems extremely innocent. This book is his tell-all. I'll put a link on it for Amazon. Trust me, it's one of the best books I've ever written. You know, it is absolutely fantastic. Anybody that's interested in being an expat are going to love that story. It's brilliant. It's a real page turner. And you'll probably find that you won't be able to put it down. So anyway, that's my little tip for you as a thank you for bearing with me for the whole of this video. Thank you so much as usual. Enjoy.